Hey everybody, welcome back to the ECG of the day. My name is Reed. Don't forget that you can download the PDF of this ECG down from the description below and follow along, make your own notes. And don't forget to click subscribe and like this video to help support the channel. So let's jump into it. This is a fun one. So let's take a look at the forest, and the trees of the forest are my QRS complexes. So maybe I'll start down here in lead 2. What I appear to have a narrow complex rhythm that is a little bit sporadic. We've got these funky beats here that seem to occur a little early, and then you've got the resumption of a narrow complex, then you have kind of narrow, narrow, funky again, and then you've got a narrow and a narrow. So seems to be maybe some groups of beats here, some groups of beats here, and then we've got these single beats that are also sprinkled throughout. We need to kind of figure out what's going on with this rhythm. I see that I've got some P waves that are occurring. You see some P waves here. Those P waves appear to be, if you look at this kind of through the baseline, a little bit upright in lead 1. And in AVF, they also appear to be upright. And so I think this is a sinus P wave, which is good. So we've got a sinus rhythm. Next thing I want to do is look at my atrial. After my atrial activity, I really want to see kind of what is going on with my AV node. And so what you can do here with our AV node is just kind of scan through and see what happens with every single P wave. And so what you'll notice is maybe we'll start with this beat. We've got a P wave that conducts to the QRS. It seems like the PR interval is a little bit long, greater than 200 milliseconds. And then we've got another P wave that conducts to a narrow complex QRS, but the PR interval is actually getting a little bit longer. Okay, so number 1, PR, my PR interval is increasing, okay? And then we have a premature beat. This is an early beat. And this is a premature beat that's a wide complex rhythm. And I don't see any atrial activity in front of that, so this is a premature ventricular contraction. You can see after the PVC, the sinus rhythm actually resumes with a P wave that's right there. If you can see that P wave, but that P wave doesn't conduct to a QRS. So we've got evidence of a blocked P wave. So, wonder what could cause that. It's a blocked P wave. Blocked P wave. Then we have a P again to our QRS. And then we've got another pause here. And if you look really closely, you can see just this little downward deflection here, this little downward deflection at the end, and that's actually a P wave that was blocked. Now we have our P wave that conducts to the QRS with a little bit of a long PR interval. You can see the PR interval is getting longer again, PR interval is increasing. We have another premature ventricular contraction, right? There's no atrial activity before, that's just the T wave. After it, you've got what appears to be a blocked P wave. And then we have kind of the same sequence again, P to QRS, and then we've got this little P wave that's just sitting at the in between that into that T wave there that is not conducted, and then we have another conducted P wave. So what is going on, right? Well, this is my hypothesis. So notice here that we'll look in V1. We've got some evidence of decremental conduction as our PR interval is increasing. We know that something like a second degree AV block type 1 is typical, where you have a PR interval that is increasing until you have a drop in the QRS. And so let's kind of scan through V1. Let's tell the story. Okay, so we've got this P that conducts to that QRS, and then we have a P that blocks. And then we have this P that conducts to the QRS. We have this P that conducts to the QRS that takes a little bit longer. And then we've got our early beat with a P wave right in front of it. But notice that P wave that's right in front of it, it occurs too close to that QRS. That PR interval is a lot shorter. We're seeing that the PR interval is increasing, and then we have this, what we said was a premature ventricular contraction that occurs a little bit early, right? And so we've got that P wave that doesn't conduct, and then we have a P wave that's blocked. And so now we're going to reset the cycle. We've got a P wave that conducts to the QRS, and then we've got a P wave here that blocks. Then we've got this P to QRS, P that takes longer to get to the QRS, and then we have the same thing, premature ventricular contraction that occurs just after the P wave. Right, there's my P wave. So really what I'm getting at is this is actually a second degree type 1 AV block that just happens to have premature ventricular contractions that are muddying the water. Okay, we're getting evidence of an AV node that is really not conducting very well, right? We're getting some times where we see right here 2-to-1 conduction, and then we have here 3-to-2 conduction, right? So we definitely have a Winky-Bach type of second degree type 1 AV block. We're just getting these PVCs that are just getting in our way of seeing when the next P wave is going to be blocked. So this is a second degree type 1 AV block with kind of this PVC pattern that is in the middle of our rhythm. And so you're probably thinking, well, this is so irregular. How are we going to calculate the rate? Well, what you can do if you want is just, we know that this ECG is 10 seconds long, so you can just count the number of QRSs throughout the rhythm. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and this is a 10-second strip, so you can do 10 times 6, gives me an average rate of 60 beats per minute. That's just kind of an easy way to just get an average rate. And so we're not done yet, right? Let's figure out what happens when the AV node does conduct that signal down. What is the morphology of the QRS, and is there any problems with it? And so we'll look at our QRS here is upright in lead 1, and it is just upright in AVF. So that tells me that it's probably going a little bit like that way. So we got a normal QRS axis. You can see then, as we look through the precordium, there is a little bit of a loss of R waves here in V1, V2, V3. So that really would qualify this person to have some pathological Q waves in V1 and V2. So I would say maybe even some septal, prior septal MI, right? Pathological Q waves tell me that the region that is represented by those leads is having a hard time conducting signal in that direction, right? And so if we have those pathological Q waves in the anatomical distribution that is mainly septal, this person might have had a prior septal MI. And so now the last thing we're going to do is look for ST and T wave changes, right? We know that infarction can be complicated by AV blocks sometimes. And fortunately for this patient, I don't see any that really stand out to me in any noticeable way. And so let's put this kind of messy rhythm all together and let's figure out what we've got. So we've got a sinus rhythm. We've got a second degree type 1 AV block that appears to be terminated at times by premature ventricular contractions. We've got a rate that averages out to be 60 beats per minute, and we have evidence with septal Q waves of potentially a prior septal MI. We would clinically kind of correlate that. So I hope this helps. Like I said, you really got to look at the behavior, right? We couldn't always see the P wave that was blocked in this second degree type 1 block, but what we could see were PR intervals that were increasing in duration. That kind of gives us a hint that perhaps this AV node was starting to slow down beat by beat by beat until it blocks. And then you got to realize, is this PVC getting in my way of understanding the physiology, right? So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments. If not, thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.